So how's it going, motherfuckers? I am here with a review of Bright. Yes, the Netflix movie that has been panned. But actually, there's a lot of people who are enjoying this film, and I gotta say, I am one of them. I did enjoy this film. I thought it was an entertaining film, and having Will Smith in the film itself is a draw for me. I'm a big Will Smith fan. I enjoy a large number of his movies. And so when I see Will Smith's name attached to anything, I always figure it's worth a look. This is from the director of Suicide Squad. Strangely enough, a movie that was also panned by critics. So it's almost like, did the critics even really watch this film? And I notice what they've been picking at, a lot of them is saying, oh, this is a social commentary, which many critics love. I mean, you've got to be honest. You know where many of the critics' political bread is buttered, on what side. So, it's not a surprise when they do enjoy social commentaries, which usually benefit their worldview in some way. And you would think that that is kind of what they would cater to, but they're bashing this film, saying that it doesn't get the job done in the way. I guess because it's not that preachy. And well, I'll be the first one to say this movie does have a lot of problems. But why do I enjoy this movie? Well, good performances from Will Smith and his co-star, which really are the backbone of this film. And but with the bigger backbone of this film is the story and the universe that it introduces. And I gotta say, I'm pretty interested to see this universe. And they're already working on a sequel, and I'm pretty excited to see where it's gonna go. So, what is this whole movie about? You take a look at the poster, you see Will Smith standing there and with another strange creature. Well, these are the orcs. They're sort of like ogres. And well, this orc is the first ever orc to be on the Los Angeles Police Department, and it's not really going over too well. With a dominant human presence on the LAPD, they're not really liking having this orc here, and Will Smith is not too crazy, but he's a little bit less prejudiced against him. He doesn't really want to be on the side of an orc. He doesn't want to ride with an orc in his squad car, but he's kind of forced into it due to the diversity program. So it really reflects real life, and you can kind of appreciate that, even though it's a fantasy world. And we might watch movies to escape from reality, but it is nice that they are doing a little bit of a real life spin on it as an alternate present world. So I like that it's not in the future like most films. We always feel that we got to go into the future, which is very cliche. So they avoided doing that cliche by saying, hey, let's not take things into the future. Instead, let's just keep it present day and just make it like things are different. And we see that there are elves, and elves are the ones that control the world, which is this is an interesting class system that they introduced. So you've got the humans who are somewhere in the middle. You've got the orcs, which humans don't like, and they kind of keep to themselves, and they don't really mix at all. And then you've got the elves, who also keep to themselves, and they're the more well-to-do. They're the elitists. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at things, and it really kind of adds a lot of like fuel to it, like a very surprising, like prejudicial class system, which is something that is uh, very often debated in the current world in which we live. And seeing that brought into a film was great. So, okay, that in itself is great. I love this universe that they've introduced. It's very edgy. It's very controversial when you take a look at it. And it seems almost like certain races in here, like the orcs and elves, could be interpreted as different sorts of people in our own reality. And so I kind of looked at this as a little bit shocked, and it was a little, and I kind of see where the critics don't like this. Perhaps it hit a little bit too close to home for themselves, and they didn't really like how this kind of played off of politics. And even though Will Smith has been kind of involved in a bit of racial politics himself, I don't know. I guess something was going on here with the plot of this film where they were like, you know what? Let's just kind of have a little bit of fun with this. And let's kind of rile people up because it really does introduce this very interesting class system that can be compared to our own world and the paranoias of many people saying who runs what, and we talk about certain races in a certain way, and kind of removing those races, and instead of making it about skin color, we kind of have different species instead. That was a real interesting touch. So Jacoby isn't really liked. He's the orc, and so they kind of find themselves in the situation where they're protecting a wand from an elf. She finds this wand. They find people slaughtered at a crime scene, and she's in the possession of this wand. And we hear about this wand can be touched by brights, and this is kind of where the story kind of gets a bit confusing. And maybe this will be cleared up in the sequel, but this is kind of where I'll get a little bit critical. The story at times, though not really hard to follow because you could really just, cling to that premise. They're protecting the wand. There's corrupt cops. We're not sure if we could really trust these elves. They're magic users. They're brights themselves. There's one evil girl that is, obviously a bright. The funny thing is we have this character, Tika, which is the one that they find who's in possession of the wand. It's like when they first found her, I kind of already just assumed that she was a bright because why else would she have the wand? Um, and when they later reveal that she is indeed a bright, I was kind of like, oh, that was supposed to be a reveal? I thought that that was already kind of established, and I was kind of like, well, wow. I mean, I thought they kind of made that a bit obvious. I mean, I guess that the wand really wasn't really supposed to be hers. It's not hers. I mean, she kind of got it from one of the evil bright elves, but it's like I kind of figured if she's in possession of this wand, I kind of figured that they already knew that she was a bright. And she is holding the wand at certain portions of the film. And didn't they just say that if you're not a bright, you can't use the wand? And there she was holding the wand. So I figured that that the film had already established that she was a bright. That was really throwing me for a loop. I it seemed like a bit of messy storytelling there. Um, but it's like I can't really down too hard on it. I really like the social commentary theme. I like the fight that they have at the end with the girl, Leela, I believe is her name, who's the evil elf bright. And we see that there's a large number of brights that are elves. I mean, it seems like predominantly that's what they are. And we see a lot of interesting things. We see at one point that they get captured by orcs, and since Jacoby is not a blooded orc, they treat him just like scum. And we don't really know a lot about this universe, but it's interesting. And the film jumps around to a lot of different concepts and things and groups. And it might be a bit bewildering, especially when we don't know so much about this universe. And I think maybe that's why people are coming down on it a bit hard, besides the whole social commentary theme. But this film just does throw a lot at you without really letting you get comfortable inside this universe first. They don't take things slow at all. It's like, well, here you go. Here's your orcs. Here's your humans. The orcs on the squad, and there's these orcs here, and then you've got Mexican gangsters, and then you've got corrupt cops here, and then you've got these elves, but there's an elf that's on the magic task force along with another human, and I don't know why they're so accepting of elves when they're supposed to be elitists, but they're not accepting of orcs. And it's like at the end you're just like, whoa, what's going on here? It's interesting. You want to keep watching this film to see what is going to happen and what's going to be explained so you could better understand the story. But I did feel a little bit frustrated at times because like I want to understand this a little bit better. Why everybody feels a certain way, and why we have this magic task force and why we need it. We hear about a war between the orcs and humans 2,000 years ago, but it's not really mentioned that often. And I don't know why humans get along better with elves when they control the world, and they seem very discriminatory, because you see like in the rich part of town that they show that there's not a lot of humans there, that it's just the elves. So it's like if they're very exclusive, and they stick to themselves, why is it that humans don't seem to have a bigger problem with these elitist elves, but they seem to have all the problems with the orcs, even though it was 2,000 years ago? Yeah, despite that being a social commentary that we can't forget about the past, and we're going back to that past hatred. Why exactly did they choose to have this class system the way they did? It's a little bit perplexing, but like I said, I'm really looking forward to a sequel. And what I would really like to see is maybe a prequel as well. This universe really fascinated me. I have to say, it's just like it. You had a lot of different things going on, a lot of different characters. I like how it was a society with all like a whole fantasy, but set in the real world. It's just I felt like they needed to explain things a little bit better. I know it's the first movie, and they probably have a little bit of a franchise here planned, and I'm definitely invested in the franchise. I want to see where it goes, but they really should have explained themselves a bit better. And that reveal on Tika, that was a bit sloppy to say the least. I mean, because it's like when you already thought that it was established and that was supposed to be meant as a surprise, and you could kind of really see it coming from a mile away that Ward, Will Smith's character, is a bright, especially when Jacoby says, there might even be brights that are humans. So you kind of just think about, well, obviously we're going to see that somewhere down the line in this movie. And there's really only one human that really matters at all in this film. And that obviously is Ward. So it comes as no surprise when it does, in fact, turn out to be Ward. So the surprises are, they're disappointing to say the least, but I have to say, I really appreciate this universe that they tried to introduce here. Um, they did seem like they put a lot of time and effort in really thinking about this concept, because it really hasn't been done when you kind of think about it. It's like we have a very interesting world here that is really begging to be elaborated on more, and to be explored and really see where it goes. So I have to say, I recommend this movie. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are frustrated. They're going to be a little bit confused about what's going on at times, especially when it comes to the elves and what's going on really with the wand, and who's really bad. And a lot of people end up dying in this movie. We see the one elf, the one bright that has been like fused in with the wall, and I don't know if she's the original person who had the wand, but it's just, I don't know. It seems like it gets tangled up in its own story, and it kind of forgets to explain things for a minute, or explain as it goes along. But perhaps they have that planned out for the future. And I'm not going to judge them on that. I'm going to, give them the benefit of the doubt, especially if they're working on a sequel right now. But I don't know if they're going to go back and explain all that stuff. But it's a really interesting universe, and it definitely should be explored. I'm interested to see where they go with it, and I'd like to see more, because they said it was an entertaining film. I liked the way how they played off of each other, Ward and Jacoby. I think that it was a good team. They had a lot of chemistry, um, and it does have its own charms. It is lacking in a lot of departments. Like I said, the explanation, you know, I don't know, it feels unpolished in certain ways, but you kind of have to appreciate the fact that they're trying to introduce something new. And I'd rather have something new like this than have all these thousands of reboots and remakes and everything. So it's nice when something new comes along, and I guess I was really ready for it. So, I guess that's what it is. I kind of appreciate what the director had to do here. And even though it's not perfect and we have a bit of a convoluted story going on, it was something that I was ready to take in. And, maybe I need to watch it for a second time, maybe to understand certain things. But that is a flaw in itself. You need to watch a movie a second time in order to understand it. But it is definitely a flawed film, but it is a good flawed film, and it is a flawed film that I recommend. And I give, like I said, all the credit in the world for trying something new out, and it is pretty much a mild success, I have to say. So I definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's on Netflix. It's not a big loss. It's not like going out and spending money on a movie, and you lose that money when it indeed ends up sucking in the end, when it ultimately ends up being a bust. So I say take a crack at it. I think that you'll get a couple of laughs, you'll get some enjoyment, you'll be introduced to a new world, and you might be like me. You might be you might be hooked into this universe a little bit. You might want to see where it has to go. I'm curious. They've captured my interest and my attention. So there you go, guys. Check it out. Let me know what you think about the film and this review. Until next time.